So, on to the topic of the video, AMD Ryzen or Zen, and mainly what I've been seeing going on with it. So, yesterday, I don't know how you pronounce his username. I think it's Derbauer, but that's just a guess. He's a guy who makes a bunch of overclocking videos and stuff, and yesterday he released a video where he did die shots of Threadripper, and he basically proved my theory that Threadripper, well, it's not my theory, multiple people had the same idea, but that when AMD said that two of the dies on Threadripper were just dummy dies, I thought that they just meant, yeah, they're dies, but they basically didn't work right, so we just decided, okay, just turn them off. And they don't perform well, and they're not good enough for Epic, so let's just cut them off and turn it into a Threadripper 1950X. And that's good. That's smart. I mean, honestly, I like that idea because one thing that you notice on all Zen CPUs, and this is going into a theory that has not been proven yet, and I can't prove it because I don't have the money to prove it because it would be really fun. But my theory is that you could take, say, a 1920X. So that's the 12 core Zen or Threadripper. And you could take that, and if you notice on all the side, on the PCB, beside all the dies, I think they're called Zeppelin dies, and they're 2 CCX units in a one die, so 8 cores, 16 threads per die. There's all these spots for these little capacitors or SMDs. I can't really tell what they are. I think some of them are capacitors and some of them are SMDs. But my theory for the longest time has been that those are to enable and disable cores externally from the silicon. So you could take a 1920X, take some of the like little SMD things, little chips on the side, and resolder them, and resolder the ones from his dead 1950X into the same places that they were on the, like, take those off the 1950X and put them onto the 1200X, and theoretically turn the 1200X, not the 1920X, fuck, sorry, I keep doing that and I'm still quite wiped, as I iterated earlier in the video, but, so I think you could take that and turn a 1920X into a 1950X. If I think that should be possible. And I think that's one of the reasons why AMD, now it wouldn't be exactly a 1950X. If the cores are cut off, it most likely means that the 2 cores per each die that they cut off did not perform as they wanted them to perform. Maybe they had a lower IPC, maybe they couldn't hit the right clocks or whatever, but I think that you could get 2 extra cores per chip. Now, I'm not certain on this, but in theory, I think that's what they do to disable and enable cores. Now, the same could be said for the mainstream platform. The, what's it called? AM4 platform. On the Ryzen platform, you have stuff going up from 4 cores, no setting, or SMT, whatever they call it, on tangents, but you also have those transistors. If you look at his delidding video of the, I think it was the 1800X, it might have been a lower tier one, but it's basically the same thing, just lower clocks. You can see that they also have those little SMDs. Almost every chip that has cut downs and opportunities has those chips, except I don't really see them in GPUs at all. But that's because it's mostly done through BIOS, and sometimes even directly in the silicon. But I think you could take, so say you had a 1200, our Ryzen 3 1200, and you had maybe a Ryzen 5 1400, and maybe you did what the I forget his name, the guy who does TechYesCity. He recently got a 1400 that had 2 bent pins, and it disabled the it disabled dual channel memory on the chip because he lost 2 pins when he, say you had a chip like that, but you lost more pins and it wasn't operable, and you, I don't know, destroyed the solder pads. Like, he didn't destroy the solder pads on it, so theoretically he could solder on new pins and get it to work again. I doubt he will, because I don't know if he has the skills for that, but I've experimented with resoldering pins on AMD's platforms, and generally it's not that hard. If you don't break the pad, you can do it. It is possible. But if you had a chip like that, you could delid them, and if you delided them successfully, you could be like, okay, so I see there's these extra capacitors in this little area here, and the 1200 is missing these. So you could desolder those from the 1400. I mean, depending, it might be under the little silicon protection they put, and they probably put that there on purpose to prevent that. But if you could if you could remove that without damaging the components underneath, you could potentially solder those onto the 1200 and enable the hyperthreading, or whatever. It's the exact same thing. They just call it different things because, Intel probably copyrighted it, and they don't want to. Because Intel can... it's logical that Intel will do that. What am I saying? This is going on for quite a bit. I'm probably going to cut it down, but... So that's my theory. I think that you could take those little chips on the side and switch them on the lower tier chips. Like, you could probably take a 1900 and you could re-enable certain segments of it. And theoretically, if you look at the 1950X that he does, you can see that where the dummy dies were, or the disabled dies, you can see that there are next to none of those little components there. So I think you could even theoretically take those and re-enable the dies on those. Now, I'm not sure how well that would work on the X399 platform, as I don't know if you would probably have to underclock it depending on how much, because those would take up a decent amount of power. If you manage to re-enable those on the same level that the other two are, I mean, they would probably have cut down performance, but you theoretically could do that. But I don't know if it would work on that platform, just because it would take more power, and they might not even be wired up. Then again, with the Infinity Fabric, they probably would work somewhat, but I'm unsure. It's really sketchy because no one's ever done it, and no one's ever had the balls to do it. My hope is that someone hears this and has the balls and money to do it, because I want to see someone try this. Because I sure as hell can't afford to, but if I come across a cheap Ryzen CPU, I will look up his pictures of when he delidded Zen, and maybe try it out myself if I find a dead Zen chip and a living Zen chip. I'll definitely try it. But next topic is AMD's Raven Ridge. There was a leak, quote unquote, of it recently, and here's what excites me about Raven Ridge. Alright, so currently for APUs, we have, if you go on to Newegg, we have Bristol Ridge. Now, Bristol Ridge is using the older architectures. So it's using, if I remember correctly, it's using Pascal GPU cores. No, not Pascal, that's NVIDIA. Polaris GPU cores with steamroller cores, or excavator, whatever. It's using a combination of them to make a Bristol Ridge APU, which has 4 excavator cores, which are like the best excavator cores that you can get, really, because they're probably the most recent, probably the ones that are tuned the best. That, and they're on the AM4 platform. So you get those. You get 4 of those, so they perform close to the... It performs a little under the 1200, the Ryzen 3 1200, just because of the IPC decrease. But it kind of makes up for it with being able to have a higher... Well, it has a higher base clock. So, it's a little lower, but it's still a little around that area for CPU performance. And then you get the Bristol Ridge APU, which honestly I've seen very conflicting reports on its graphics performance, which either means people aren't very good at the benchmarks that I'm looking at aren't very good for being precise, or Linus Tech Tips. New from Linus Tech Tips. Should you upgrade to Ryzen? Boy, I'm sitting right beside my Ryzen rig that still needs DDR4, but I might sell my CSGO skins to get DDR4. Either that, or I'm waiting until, what's it called? Ethereum goes up a bit. When Ethereum goes up a bit, I've got about a quarter of an Ethereum token. So when Ethereum goes back up a bit, I'm going to sell and use that money to buy, hopefully, either an 8 or 4 gig stick or 2 4 gig sticks. I don't like it when there's only one stick of memory in a 4-channel motherboard. So I'm probably just going to go with 2 sticks of 4 gigs running it. And I'm going to definitely get 3200 megahertz because I'm going to need that speed. Because I'm going to be doing Blender shit and finish talking about the Bristol Ridge Apu. So you got the A12-9800, which is the same price as the 1200. Actually, it's a little more now because I'm pretty sure the 1200's either on sale or had a $5 price cut. No, it's on sale. So it's the same price, so the CPU is a little weaker, and you get a GPU. Now, what excites me about Raven Ridge, which is their upcoming performance, so far we only have leaked benchmarks from the R5 2500U, which is most likely a mobile chip, judging by that. So we're probably going to see it before the end of the year, Q4. But I think that we're either going to start getting desktop Raven Ridge in December or by February or March, I think. Pretty sure it's going to be Q1 or Q4, end of Q4 of 2017. That or Q1 of 2018. But it's exciting because what they're doing is they're taking Vega cores, a Vega GPU, and strapping it to a CCX. So on Zen, every Zen chip is made up of a Zeppelin die, either cut down or overclocked or more of them put together. Every Zen chip is a CCX unit. It has 2 CCX units. So a CCX unit has 4 cores, 8 threads. So if you take 4 cores and 8 threads of Zen, you're going to get 1400 Ryzen 5 1400 performance, and you're going to have a Vega GPU with them. Now, what I'm hoping they do, and I don't know if they'll do it, but I'm hoping that they can go and take the get the GPU that they're putting with the Ryzen CCX unit. So they're using Infinity Fabric, I'm pretty sure. Now, if they use this to connect to the GPU and stuff, it'll be cool. But here's a problem. Are they going to integrate the GPU and the CCX unit into one chip? Or are they going to go Threadripper on its ass? It could go either way, really, but what's going to be interesting to see is if they go with the one chip, how are they going to do VRAM? Because Vega, I'm going to set my phone down because it's getting hot because it's charging because I fell asleep without putting it on the charger last night. But, then I'm going to recline my chair like a jackass. How many times have I said "but" in the last 5 minutes? Do I still have coffee left? How come the coffee hasn't hit me yet, man? I just drank a full cup of really dark coffee, darker than my soul. And I'm still tired and out of it. Fuck. 12 hours of Counter-Strike. Worth $5? Not really. Worth a chance to get that case? Hell yeah, it is, because I don't want to pay $500 for it on eBay. I'd rather... I should have jumped on that when they had it at Canada Computers, oh well. But back to the thing. I'm curious how they're going to do VRAM, because it's going to be Zen and Vega. Vega is primarily using HBM2 as VRAM. So what I wonder is if for Zen, could they theoretically make an APU that has maybe 2 sets of HBM2, one for the GPU and one for the CPU. So you could get that, and maybe get one that has like 4 gigs of RAM per the CPU and 2 gigs for the GPU. You put that in the motherboard, you don't need to get RAM, you just have a system and go. I don't think they'll do that. But I'm not even sure if they'll use HBM2, if they'll find a way around. I'm not sure how Vega's architecture works. I never really got into Vega. It was kind of a flop. I mean, they got performance, but no. Vega was a failure, I think. I think they hopefully will pull something nice out with Navi. Currently, I'll stick to NVIDIA because NVIDIA is... I like their recording software. I've dealt with AMD's older recording softwares, and I hated them. Speaking of that... Sorry, this is going to be a long fucking video. But, Raptor, they finally decided to close down Raptor. Raven Ridge for the 8th goddamn time. But Raven Ridge, I'm hoping what they do is they have the CCX unit, the Vega GPU, and an HBM2 unit. Now, here's how it's either going to go. They're either going to integrate the CCX and the Vega GPU into one chip. Okay? So you have one die. But then they could either decide not to use HBM2 and you have to use DDR4. Now, I don't think they'll do that because it will really cut down the Vega GPU. I think they're going to stick an HBM2 unit in there. And I think that'd be cool. But here's the problem with that. How the hell... Like, I think they might have issues. If they do that, you've seen it with the Vega, that some of the chips have a couple micrometers of differing heights. Is that going to be solderable? Are they going to have issues soldering that onto the heat spreader, the IHS? Are they going to have trouble soldering that if they do that? So that's one reason why I think they might not put HBM2 in there. That, and it's harder to source right now, so it would drive up the prices. On the bright side, it would be a good output for Vega, because then people could get their hands on Vega without having to worry about miners, because miners aren't going to buy a CPU and have 12 motherboards with CPUs and Vega on them just to get Vega. Miners aren't going to do that. That's one thing that I hate. People always say miners are evil and terrible, and it drives me nuts, because it's like, yes, the guys who buy 12 goddamn GPUs at once because they want to mine and make money, or I dislike that too. They're assholes. Yeah, we get it. But you know what? At least they're using the GPUs instead of just buying them and not doing anything with them, or trying to... There are people who wait until they're in stock, buy a bunch of them, and then sell them at a higher price just because they're expensive, because the demand's high for them and the supply's low. And sell it for this much money so I can make a lot of profit. I hate people who do that. Scalpers, or whatever you want to call them. Pricks. Better term. But, so that's one issue I can see with Vega, that they're going to have issues with the dies being, if they do that. Now, I'm unsure that they're going to have the GPU and the CPU connected. Well, in one die. I think they're going to make one CCX unit CPU. So it's going to be a cut-down Zeppelin die. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to try and have the same... Well, they're probably going to make sure it still has the same capability as the standard Zeppelin die with the amount of PCI lanes and DDR4 and stuff that it can do. I think they're going to try and maintain that with half of as many cores, right? And I think they're going to, so I think they're going to make a cut-down Zeppelin die. They're going to make a custom CPU die for it, which is just using one CCX and the same memory controller that's in the Zeppelin die and stuff, right? And then I think that they're going to have multiple versions of the Vega die. I think they're going to have, like, one that maybe performs like the RX 550, one that performs like the RX 560, and one that maybe performs like the RX 570. I think that would be the wisest way to go. Now that might be asking a little much, especially because you'd probably need a decent heatsink for that. You'd probably need the Wraith Spire cooler for that. And that'd be cool if they started packaging the RGB one with the, because you look at the RGB one, how much would you pay for that? I'd pay about 25 Canadian, I'd pay about $25. Because you can get a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo for 30, or around 30. So I don't see why people are paying $40 or $60 for RGB Wraith Spire cooler. It pisses me off because it's like, if you're not using it, can you at least try and sell it for a decent price? But if they do that, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be like a mini Threadripper almost, with the amount of dies they're going to have to fit in there if they have HBM2. Because if they do what I think they're going to do and have a CCX, or I'm going to call it a Zep Mini for Zeppelin Mini, a Zep Mini chip, the Vega GPU, and HBM2, however much they put in there, probably only 4 gigs if I had to guess, maybe less. I don't know how they're going to do it. I really hope they make a Raven Ridge CPU that could perform like comparable to the RX 580. Like, because that would be pretty beast. Like, they could probably sell that for $300. That'd be great. I'm excited for Raven